A 3-year battle finally over.
Today, 1,700 Qantas families have had a massive victory in the highest court in the land.
We were no one special, but today we feel that we're special.
It began in August 2020 when COVID was ravaging the globe and the future of travel was up in the air.
Open tourist-related travel in or out of Australia, that remains quite some distance off.
Facing uncertain times, Qantas fired 1,700 ground staff at 10 airports, immediately replacing them with labour hire workers instead.
Qantas was a place where people worked for 20, 30, 40 years. And for all of a sudden to be told that you now don't have a job through no fault of your own, it was gut-wrenching, terrible.
But those sacked staff mobilised, taking the airline straight to court for breaching workers' rights.
What in fact the TWU allege is that it wasn't a redundancy at all, but rather they were terminated because the employees may have brought industrial action one day in the future.
Today, vindication, the High Court upholding 2 federal court rulings finding Qantas acted illegally.
This has been a spiteful corporate dictatorship, and the board has been right behind Alan Joyce in that spite every step of the way. It's time for them to go.
I say to the workers who are illegally sacked, you did nothing wrong. Qantas broke the law.
Qantas today apologised to the workers, saying,
"We deeply regret the personal impact the outsourcing decision had on all those affected."
The focus now turning to compensation.
They had jobs ripped away from them illegally, and therefore they need to be compensated for that.
And a renewed union call to speed up legislation to outlaw the practice of undercutting staff with labour hire companies.
To stop this type of behaviour in its tracks, you've got to close those loopholes.
To the corporate people of Australia, I think the gravy train's pulled into the station. It's time to get off. All you Qantas workers at home, we beat them. Go and enjoy it. Thank you.
You might recognise Damien Pollard from that package. He's one of the workers laid off and he's here to talk us through today's court decision. Damien, what was it like for you hearing that ruling this morning?
Yeah, hi guys. We were ecstatic. It was just, it ranked up there with the birth of my children and my wedding. It was that high. I won't say it was quite as high as that, but it was ranked right up there.
Let's go back a bit, Damien. What's been the impact of the sacking on you and your colleagues? Talk us through some of that.
It's very hard to explain, but a lot of my colleagues have found it very difficult to get any type of meaningful work now. A lot of them have suffered from mental health issues because of that feeling of no self-worth, because they were sacked from a job that we all believed that we were doing very well. There's been relationship breakdowns. There's people that have lost their houses or have had to sell their houses. So when you hear in the news that there's another company that's got rid of certain people, you never really give 2 thoughts to what that actually means in real human terms, and it's extremely distressing.
Damien, could you flesh that out a bit more? Because I think people might be surprised to hear, particularly in an environment where we've got such low unemployment, and people are actually able to find jobs at the moment probably more easily than normal, that it was so difficult for a lot of the workers in this situation. Why would that be the case?
Yeah, totally agree, Waleed. In the aviation industry, what skills that you're taught are very aviation specific. So if you get on the plane and you're given a glass of water, or if you're really lucky, a glass of bubbles up the front, I can push your plane out and you won't even know that plane's moving. But that doesn't really transfer well into the real world. Secondly, at Qantas, we had a very senior staff because it was seen as a job for life. So a lot of guys and ladies were over the 50 mark. So when you go, and I know myself, when I go and apply for a job and they see the age, now people are not supposed to do it. There's supposed to be no ageism, but it is very well and truly alive.
Oh, Damien, I can hear the emotion in your voice, and you all loved your job so much. What's it been like seeing close up what Qantas has become?
One thing everybody's got to remember, we loved working for that company. It was great to put on that uniform and have that red kangaroo. It was something to be proud of. And to see that pride eroded over the last few years. It's been really distressing.
Well, Damien, it's a big day for you. This is, a brand new future for you. I got a feeling some of your colleagues might make really good rock and roll roadies. We've got Nick Mason from Pink Floyd coming up on the show. Do you want me to put in a word?
I would love to, because I love Pink Floyd. Nick Mason is a hero of mine, so I'm really upset I'm not in the studio.
Well, if you can make it down in time, mate, it's happening in just a second.
As long as your plane isn't delayed in any way.
Well, I was going to say, I know a good airline that can take me down there.
I won't ask you to name it. Damien, thank you very much for joining us.
No. Thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me speak.
Wow. Where are we at with our love affair with Qantas? I mean, in the old days, you remember we used to travel overseas and you would see that red kangaroo and you would get on the plane and you would hear that accent and you would cry.
Yeah.
And you expected that airline to be ethical and loyal and decent. And here we are. What a pretty past.
I feel that way about Bonza. Every time I see that purple, I just break into tears. Oh my God. That's what it means to be Australian, right there.
Feel that, like when Rain Man said Qantas never crashed.
Yeah.
I just swelled with pride.
Yes,
I do have some
That's
pride.
true.
We were talking about it today in the office. I don't have these memories of when it was a public company and people felt like... Wendy, you described it to me today off air as you felt like you owned part of it.
That's right.
I don't have any of that, but I do have a sense of being like, that's us. They don't crash that much. They're pretty good. Go Qantas.
They don't crash that much. Excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess the thing is, though,
There's a slogan.
Yeah.
We don't crash either.
the thing is, if they're going to trade on that, and they do, and I can understand, like, they've actually got the right to do that, but there's got to be a quid pro quo with it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can't claim the national airline status even if it's not technically true, and then behave like a ruthless private company.
Yeah.
You've got to live up to the national airline.
Yeah, they've
part
got
of the
a
billing.
lot of mending to do. I'm coming through Melbourne at Sydney Airport today. We are getting a brand new plane every 6 months or something. I thought, oh, what am I on at the moment?
Yeah.
Crikey, I'm on a biplane or something.
Yeah, update it for me today, gee.